Hello and welcome to another episode from the water's edge. You catch up with us on our first night fishing session since we began our channel, and hopefully in today's episode we're going to be targeting catfish and carp. Now the lake we've chosen to fish is Cobbleacre Lakes in Norfolk, which I actually fished myself off camera just last week and had fish up to 20 pounds of both species, cats and carp. So I had a quick word with Chris and said it's probably a nice thing to catch on camera. So that's what we're down here to do today, try and catch one of those fish or both of those fish on camera. Now when I fished last week, I fished over the other side in a swim called the Lawns, and actually that was my first choice swim, but as soon as I turned up today I realised it's relatively busy, so it's sort of been forced over to the other side. And the swim I'm in is called Island Gap. I mean, it still looks a relatively good swim, it gives me plenty of features to offer, so I'm hopeful of a fish or two. Now like I said, the rods are already out. I'm just tying some bags up ready for a bit later on. It's probably about 8 o'clock at the moment, so we'll get the rods out again before it gets dark. But what we've got on the rods at the moment is the right hand rod is sort of tucked in the corner on some lilies, and that's my out and out catfish rod. I mean, speaking to Bob and learning what we learnt last week, you do fish for them in two different ways. Now the catfish tend to like bigger beds of baits, but they are boilie fish. They're used to eating boilies. Carp hangers put boilies in, so we're not going to be spomming halibut pellets or big beds of maggots, which sometimes you probably might think. It's more the boilie water really. So tucked in that little corner we've got a big bait of boilies, two big baits on the bottom, and hopefully that's my catfish rod. On the middle rod there's a nice lily bed towards the far side of the island which I've got on there, and on that rod I've literally got 5 or 6 boilies. I've spread those out over a big area, and that's my carp rod. I mean, you could get cats on it, don't get me wrong, but like I said, speaking to everyone and what we learned, more than nice, if you put smaller bets of bait out, you're likely to catch a carp. Then on the other rod, sort of hedge my bets for both. It's on a little corner of the island where some lily roots stick out, and the tree roots are actually out of the water as well, so it's sort of a bit of a jungle over there. And I've put a fair scatter in, so that one I've sort of hedged my bets and really expecting either on there. But like I said, I'll just probably finish tying these bags up, probably order some food, get the kettle on, and then we'll check back a bit later on just before we put the rods out before it gets dark, and in there we'll show you a bit more about the rigs we've got and the baits we're using for today's session. Right, we're just getting the rods out now before it gets dark. I just finished this cuppa. And this is now the third rod. I've already done the first two, but it's a great time to talk you through the rigs and the baits we've got for today. So what we'll do is we'll start off with the lead clip system. Been used for ages, everyone knows lead clip system. 2 ounce lead, it's only flicking it down the edge, doesn't need to be very heavy, but it's going to be heavy enough to hook a catfish. This is a catfish rod. Actually, rig wise, they're all the same, just in case we hook a catfish on any of the others. Now coming down to the braided hook link, not mono or anything like that, and it's £25 braid. The reason being is catfish have got, I mean, people say it's almost like sandpaper in the bottom of the top lip, and also 4 crushing pads right at the back of the throat, but if you've ever caught a catfish or felt it, it's a really coarse sandpaper, if I was going to describe it, almost like mini teeth, so having that really strong braid there is going to stop them rubbing on that pad and breaking you off. Obviously to complement that well, you're going to need a strong hook, so we've got a size 6 hook, nice thick gauge on it, thick wire, and that's going to be strong enough to go in and stay in. Hopefully it's not going to be straightened out or anything like that. Now the only slight difference is we're actually fishing a KD rig, which is pretty much the same as a normal knotless knot hair rig, and if you're not familiar with a KD, search it online. There's many videos on there about how to tie one up, but basically the principle of it is you tie it exactly the same as you would a knotless knot, so you go 4 turns up, but then you stop and sort of fold your hair back and then do another 3, so your hair actually comes off like halfway up your knot, which then creates, if I can hold it up for you there, that really aggressive kick on the hook. And what that is great for fishing like snowman rigs or bottom bait rigs, pop-up rigs, sorry. And what we'll do is we'll show you that we're doing now, because we're actually fishing snowmans on here. Bait wise for this right hand rod, is the krill. This is my catfish rod. There's plenty of this gone out there already. I'm just going to rebait it up. Now krill doesn't really need much introduction. It's been used for a long while to some great success. It's really fishy smelling, and that's going to be perfect for the catfish. It's what they love. Grub around in that fishy smell and hopefully they'll pick the hook bait up. But if I bait this up now, we'll show you why they call this the snowman. Pretty obvious when you see it. But basically what it is you've got a 15mm bottom bait, and then on top of it you've got a 10mm pop-up. Now they normally counteract each other lovely, so it sits properly like that on the bottom. So if I just try and whip this hair stop in. It's a bit fiddly. Don't know if the light shows it properly, but it is slowly going now. And there we are. It goes on like that. So actually when that sits in the water, your hook will lay flat, and then your snowman will sit like a snowman would. If I just test that in this pot here, you should be able to see that sitting lovely. So the hook lays flat, and it sits with a 15mm on the bottom and the 10mm as a pop-up, making it the snowman. So that's the rig and the bait for that right hand rod. If I just dry that off, because the last thing we are adding, just to stop any tangles and get a bit of extra bait right around your hook bait to try and get them fish homing in on it, we just got a little bag, 10p piece size, with pellets. So that rod's ready to go. But before we do that, I always said everything's exactly the same. The rig is exactly the same, but the bait is a little bit different. Now on the other two rods, like I said, I'm hedging my bets, cats and carp more. So hopefully we're going to catch some carp. Now I'm a little bit excited about these next two rods, because we're on a new bait. Now it's a new bait made by Nash, and it's specially designed for angling direct, called the Tangy Terror. We're probably some of the first people to use this, and it smells gorgeous. I mean, it's based around a shellfish original base mix, but there's tangerine oil in there, some sweeteners, and it's been tested really, really well. For the last 2 years, Gary Bays, who's one of the best boys at Nash for designing some of the well-known baits like Scopex and Robin Red, he's been helping us design it, and it's been tested really, really well. It's got everything in there that a carp needs, nutrients and stuff like that, so it's going to keep coming back for more. So I've heard some big things, and it's been said to me that these are going to catch some of the bigger fish across the country. So first thing, get on the bank and test them out for them. Along with those, they also come with little pop-ups, same flavour, multicoloured. You've got pinks, orange, yellows. So what you can do, especially fishing them snowmans, is you can change that little pop-up. You can change it to a pink, a white, and that's just giving you loads of options. You're still fishing the same rig, but technically you're fishing completely different, because lakes do respond for different colours. So get yourself a little multicoloured pot, change them, and you'll be getting bites quicker once you find what colour they're after. With that as well, you've got a nice really concentrated boilie dip. That's really, really strong. And in there, I mean, you could dip your bag, you could dip your hook baits, soak some hook baits in there as well. So plenty of options with it. Really excited to see this, how this reacts in the water. At the moment we've had nothing, but I'm pretty confident this is going to catch a fish. So let's get this righted one out. I'm going to put quite a few more baits around it. Like I said, this is the cat rod, needs to be aggressively fed, and hopefully they're going to come onto it. So I'm going to pop this out there, give them another good scattering of boilies, and hopefully next time we come back he'll be with a fish. Right, that's gone out there nicely. This is the third trap set. As you see, I just put some more bait around that rod, because that's the catfish rod, which they seem to respond to quite a bit of bait. So just turn that alarm up. Make sure we can hear it. Check the others. That's a duck. And they're all ready. 3 traps set, ready for the evening. They're all clipped up on bank stick wraps behind me, and we need to cast out during the dark. We can get back on the same spots So hopefully we're all ready, but now I'm feeling a bit hungry. Gonna be lazy I think, get a big old pizza in. Let's go sit back in the bivvy. Well, we've just had an absolute screamer on the left hand rod, on the Tangerine Terror. It's the one that was sort of a spread of bait out there, so I'm not sure what it is. Getting a bit blinded by the camera light, but oh, I think I've gone over my other rod as well. This is a point I wasn't looking forward to because we've got a lot of lilies about 12 yards out. It's not going to be easy to get fish over it. Just take my time. I would say how it's fighting, it's going to be a catfish. Just turn that alarm off. Oh, he's giving me the run around under the tip. Really got to try and keep this pressure hard. Right, just down in these lilies now. One last pull. Oh, shuffling. He's in. It is a catfish. Not the biggest one in the world. I mean, they do go up to 60 in here, but it's one of the target species, and unbelievably on the Tangerine Terror. So, not the rod we're expecting the cats on, but shows the bait's working. I'm just going to leave him down there for a bit, get the mat ready, and we'll have a look at him. Right, he's had a bit of time to recover down the edge while I just sorted out the mat. All I'm going to do is just break this handle down and fold that net up just so he's easier to carry over to the mat. Just roll it down. Not the biggest fish, but he's more than welcome. Let's get him on that mat. Right, let's have a quick look at him. Got on the mat's nice and wet, so he's not going to come to any harm. Let's try and find that hook. Oh, he's popped that in the net. That was pretty lucky. I'll sort that out in a minute because there's a barb on there. But there he is. Oy. And there we are. I mean, that's that mouth, and these pads here is what I was talking about, front and bottom, and then there's 4 at the back. And here's his two whiskers on the front. Obviously that's there what they're feeling with, finding the bait with, and he don't have any problem sniffing out them baits. See if I can hold him up. He's been pretty well behaved at the moment, but 4 feelers on the bottom there as well, but just sort of an enlarged tadpole really. But the best thing I think about him is these markings. It just literally looks like marble. Really strange markings, but intriguing at the same time. One of the perfect predators. Let's not keep him out too long, let's get him back. Just gonna transfer him in this sling so he's easy to get back in the water. Slide that underneath him and we'll get him back. Right, this is slipping back. He should go back pretty quick. They don't normally take too much persuading. He's off. get in there. Tangy Terry strikes. Let's get them rods back out. And the worst thing about catfish, the slime, and it stings. We're just getting the traditional celebratory brew on the go, and to be honest with you, I'm pretty chuffed with that start. Its time now is about 11:30, so we've got a few hours of darkness yet. Obviously catfish are primarily nighttime feeders. Them tiny little eyes, they don't really feed on sight, it's all on smell, but there's a good chance of a carp as well. They tend to sort of drop the guard as it gets a bit darker as well, so hopeful for another fish, definitely while it's dark. But I'm going to boil this up, sit back for a bit, listen to the water, see if we can hear anything splash, or see if we can get any sort of inkling of where they are. I know we've already had one, but the other two rods at the moment not produced, but definitely confident there's another fish in this, I'm sure. Well, I've just been woken up by a vicious line. I actually thought it was a take a shot out of my bed, and unfortunately it stopped straight away, and looking at the bob and it's back in the same spot, so it's a good indication of a liner. Normally if you're being picked up, your bob would be in a slightly different place. So yeah, just a bit of a quick update for you to see where we are. The time is about 2:30, so we've got a couple of hours left of darkness, and I've heard the odd slap of the tail and that of catfish. I've had a carp roll, so I'm sure there's fish about. I'm surprised, to be honest, we haven't had another one after having that cat earlier, but I'm still hopeful. But if not, what I'm going to do is grab a couple more hours shut eye. As soon as that sun comes up, the crack of dawn, we'll be up, see if we can have another one out. Well, we've just been rudely awakened by another absolute scream on the left-hand rod. As soon as I hooked it, there's a big slap over the far side, so I know it's a catfish, causing me a bit of grief underneath this rod tip now. Whee. So this is where I've just got to be careful, because these pads here, he's going to try and bury his head in. Come on. Ooh. One thing about catfish is they do fight so incredibly hard all the while, and he does. Probably more lilies than catfish, but he's in the net. Just gonna, oh, that was me. Just gonna pop him down there, get the mat ready, and then we'll have a look at him. Here he is, along with half the lily bed. And that's one thing, as I said, you can guarantee if you've never caught catfish before, it's just how well they fight. Don't have to be big to give you some of the best scraps you've ever had. Right, let's see if we can just nip the hook out. And there we are, that one on a little snowman again, with a yellow one on the top this time. right in the corner there. Well, that popped out nicely. I just almost caught myself on one of those pads just in the corner there, so as I said, be very, very careful. If you're not held them before, they are really, really sharp and they will sort of graze you or cut you, so be very careful. But let's see if we can hold them up for you. Normally they are well behaved, but that's more the bigger fish, and they normally just sort of lay there once they're out of the water. But first one in the light, so you can have probably a bit of a better look at them. Like I said, their markings almost like marble, and for such a long fish, they've got some really tiny features. I mean, they've got the tiny little teddy bear eye, really, really small. But like I said, they're not really a visual feeder at all. It's all done on smell, using these two big feelers here and a 4 underneath, and then a tiny excuse for a dorsal fin on the back there. Probably not even worth having. It really, really is small, but you can see where they get their power from, and it's just the whole huge tail there. I mean, these fellas get massive, massive. They really do. I've been lucky enough to be over to Spain and had these to 170, so you can imagine one of these like 7 foot long, longer than you, and then you're into a serious fish. But don't quite get that big in the UK, but still great fun. Let's get him back. Right, let's just slip him back as well. Thanks for his presence on the camera, but we don't want to cause any more upset to his day. He's probably going to go sit somewhere and sulk. There we are, happy for another day. Another one on the Tangy Terror. Probably expected carp on that, but never mind. It's catfish we're catching, and I'm happy with that. Well, we're into the late morning now, and the sun has burnt off some of that early morning mist. I've sat here for the last 5 or 6 hours since it got light, and it's been really, really dead, to be honest. And our plan was only ever to fish a short overnight, 12-14 hours, sort of the bite period time, evening, early morning and through the night. So I think what I'm going to do is slowly pack this gear away and we'll head off home. I mean, if you were going to stay, you'd probably be looking to fish on zigs or on the surface, and I'm sure you'd have a carp out. As if you worked at it, these hot conditions, there is fish to be had, but perhaps that's a video for another day. And I'm happy with what we've done. We've done 2 cats, the first 2 cats we've ever put on camera, so couldn't be more chuffed with how it's gone. It's just now time to get all this packed away. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. We'll be back again, so keep tuned and we'll see you again on the next one.